Thanks very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, November 10th to order. Before I start, it's an honor to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, represented by the Songhees and Kisepsin nations. We're grateful to live, work, and play in this special place. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's council agenda, please? Olson and Ward, please. Discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Just item 3 is the release of in-camera resolutions. We do have one resolution that was released from our October 27th in-camera meeting. In-camera resolution IC 2025-82, which was the appointment of the subdivision approving officer. In brief, the resolution was that the appointment of Yasmin Hernandez as the subdivision approving officer be rescinded, and that John Rosenberg be appointed as the subdivision approving officer effective October 27th, 2025, and that Richard Roy be appointed as the alternate subdivision approving officer for the city of Colwood effective October 27th. Just a few messages today. I'm sorry, I've got a few of them. Just want to remind everyone that November 20th is our inaugural fundraising gala for the Colwood Medical Clinic, and it's for acquisition of critical medical equipment for the clinic, and also for international recruiting of doctors. And we've got quite a few of them, in fact. So the second thing I just want to remind everyone, tomorrow is Remembrance Day. There are 3 ceremonies here in the West Shore. One at Veterans Memorial, and that'll be attended by Councillor Ward. And as you'll be acting in the capacity as an acting mayor, and the Royal Roads University has a ceremony, and I think Councillor Grove is going to that one. And the rest of us Motley crew are heading off for the Colwood Cenotaph. So the events start about 10:45-ish, 10:30-ish. In that time frame. So I just welcome everyone to get out there and attend the ceremony. So I invite staff as well as the general public. The one here in Colwood has built up over the years. We actually have RCMP in their scarlets guarding the post. And it's a really good affair because it's really run by the Cubs and Scouts and Girl Guides and Brownies. It's a phenomenal ceremony. The city of Colwood, just for your information, the city of Colwood has proclaimed November 2025 as Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and encourage all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening. The province, the Minister of Children and Family Development, has proclaimed November as Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month to celebrate families who have welcomed children and youth as permanent members of their family. And lastly, just quickly, the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee is looking for a Colwood resident to join the committee. Please visit the Colwood webpage under accessibility for more details, or email accessibility@colwood.ca for additional information on joining the committee. And I will move to item 5, which is the adoption and receipt of minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes in section 5 of the agenda? Thank you, Mr. Grove and Councillor Olson. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. At this point in time, I will open the floor for public participation. The city has received 8 written submissions that were received prior to the agenda publication, and they are attached to the agenda. There are also 17 written submissions that were received after agenda publication, and they will be appended to the agenda following tonight's meeting. In addition, they are also available on the city's meetings website, and they will be posted after tonight's meeting. Just like to thank everyone that has submitted, had a written submission for their input. It was all read. Thank you, it was valuable. No members of the public have registered to speak virtually. At this point in time, what we do? Okay, we have one that will speak virtually then. At this time, I will open the floor up to the public to present your concerns or ask questions to council. Alternately, you can wait for the agenda item to be brought up and to speak at that time. Can I just see a show of hands of people that want to wait till the agenda item is brought up? No, you'll wait till the item is up. Okay, and I will now open the floor. I guess we'll start with the virtual, please.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. This is Marcy at the City of Colwood. If you would unmute yourself, you can address council. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Brenton Williams. I just thought I'd call in just to talk about the 3145 Metchosin Road project. Recently, my family had moved into Royal Bay. We moved into a very similar type of development, a three bedroom plus unit, and we moved from Victoria. And we're just finding that the area is very good. We have two kids. We're a little bit too big for a condo project. So, finding something that was a three bedroom was a bit of a challenge, but we got out here to Colwood and we've been really enjoying ourselves out here. And I just, anytime I see these kind of developments that are kind of adding to the inventory, which we were looking for, and is kind of perfect for us, to be honest, and good community. And I think projects like this are kind of what we need, kind of bridging the gap between a condo and a home that maybe is not affordable for everybody. So it is something that's very practical for the area, and I think it suits the needs of the public very well. So I thought I'd just call in to support that project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Anyone else wish to speak at this point in time, please? You have to come up to the speaker. And if you could just tell us where you live and yeah, there's a button there. You got it.
Hi, my name's James. I live just off Super Road, closer to Colwood Corners on Nelly Place. I'm also here to voice my support for the project at 3145 Metchosin Road. Born and raised in Victoria as well, but my wife and I wanted to put down roots here. So we moved to Colwood earlier this year. Obvious reasons being relative affordability, but also great access to parks, schools, amenities, etc. A lot of me and my wife were fortunate enough to purchase a small single family home, but a lot of my peers are not in the same position. So I think having a wide variety of different housing types in any community is extremely important. And I do think it's also important for those different housing types not to all be concentrated in just Royal Bay and the beachlands. So I think the project there on Metchosin Road at 3145 fills a nice gap and provides some family-oriented housing in an area where it's much needed. That's all.
Thank you very much. Next, please. Please.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Caleb Crooks, and I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the proposed rezoning at 3333 Metchosin Road. I would like to start by noting how attached to the proposal was a fairly lengthy report from staff that outlined quite thoroughly almost every possible impact and consideration that you could imagine with this 10-unit building on that corner. And if there really was some sort of like prohibitive reason why we shouldn't be able to redevelop this corner, then I'm fairly confident that report would have addressed that, but it didn't. And in fact, staff are recommending you to approve this rezoning application, as am I. But certainly there are considerations to be made, Metchosin Road being chief among them. But I think we can reason through this. Just the other month, you all directed staff to begin working on the eventual redesigns of Metchosin Road, and the city identified it as a top transportation priority for Colwood. This specific rezoning proposal at 3333 doesn't really have much to do with that. And it's a bit of an apples and oranges comparison, I think. It's important, certainly, but they're not necessarily one and the same. And I totally empathize with the community when members come and voice concerns about safety and traffic flow at that intersection. I mean, hell, I'll be first in line to tell you how many times I've nearly been run over on my bike at that corner. But I also acknowledge and appreciate the role that the city is currently playing in addressing those concerns. And that, frankly, if anything, I think there are a reason to support these kinds of redevelopment applications. And two, from a slightly more technical angle, if we look at this proposal more specifically, it's wholly consistent with our OCP. It's tiny, 10 units and an FAR of 1.7 is not really a huge ask, and it fits quite nicely within the existing fabric of the character with the Lagoon Corners townhomes just across the street. And so, in my view, I think we can sort of move past this sort of like analysis paralysis that we get into with regards to approving these kinds of small projects and just move it through the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please. Ali. You're hot.
Okay. Okay. Hi, so I'm here for 3333 Metchosin Road. Everyone knows that this is a unique intersection and that any development at this time needs to be considered carefully as to how it fits with the neighborhood and the future vision for Colwood. Proper development of this area is critical due to the current and future expansion of Colwood, not to mention the challenges of proper traffic flow. It's a gateway to the Esquimalt Lagoon, a bird sanctuary, a peaceful haven from the noise and chaos in everyday life. It is where people go to appreciate and enjoy nature at its finest, and is one of the things that makes Colwood very special and unique. Thousands of units are being built and will be built in Royal Bay as well as Lower Lagoon neighborhood. Not every development needs to or should be approved, nor should pressure from the provincial government outweigh what is best for the residents, nor should it outweigh the safety of the residents. This project does not fit in with the vision of the neighborhood hub, which is meant to encourage small-scale retail users to support the needs of neighborhood residents. We just cannot design the C9 zone to fit a development, and we cannot allow developments that will dominate and overpower existing neighborhoods. This is not gentle or sensitive infill neighbor development when the proposed building is mere steps from the neighboring home and an elementary school. Nor is it sensitive or gentle infill when parking for 12 vehicles is 5 feet away from the neighboring house, where exhaust fumes will enter windows and doors. This proposed development does not even align with the purpose of the land use bylaw, which promotes the health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the public, as well as considering the character of each zone and the peculiar suitability of that zone. Under both the OCP and the province's own definition, gentle infill is limited to a 4-plex or townhouse and does not include a 3-story apartment building. The city of Colwood can and must do better for its residents with regards to development and safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Oh, you forgot to mention your name. It's Ali. Right, thank you. Next, please. Sure. Sure. Hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Mike Manhas, 1219 Nield Road. While sitting here, I just got an email and it says, "Hi there. I'm a registered counselor in Victoria and I have a client in immediate need of drug and alcohol rehabilitation. I'm hoping she can gain access to funding through Wired so she can attend the intensive outpatient program at Pegasus. I've contacted them and they suggest Rewire may be able to help us. I get 3 or 4 or 5 of those every single day, and we do our best to help everyone. And as you guys know, we're making headway with the Forge. I'm hoping all of you, if you're free on the 13th, will be at the press conference to announce how much money you gave me. I know there's something on the agenda. I want to give kudos to the staff for putting in so much hard work and acknowledging what we're bringing to the community. I doubt well, if you have any questions, I'm here, but again, it's a place that's going to provide treatment. It's going to provide free counseling, free treatment, free recovery coaching, a silver bar for people to learn to live lives again. The only thing I wanted to mention is I seen there's $7,100 in there. And December 31st is coming pretty quick. So if you don't have the other 2,100 allocated, we could sure use it. So if Mr. Ward or Ms. Jordanson want to make an amendment to what's coming up and say, we want to give them 7,100, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike. Next, please. Seeing no other feedback from the public, I will move on to item 7, which is the consent agenda. Items in this section may be voted on in one motion. A member may request to remove an item for the purpose of individual debate or discussion. Does anyone want to see anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion for the consent agenda. Okay, Councillor Jordison and Councillor Grove. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on to item number 8, which is unfinished business. This is the 2026 budget approach. I'll get Mr. CEO. Mr. Johnson, please, could you introduce our speaker on this?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the 2026 budget approach, and this is revised. This has come back to council based on the feedback that you provided us that the original outline wasn't what you were expecting. So our Director of Finance has brought forward a revised memo and also a PowerPoint presentation should you wish to receive it. If council doesn't wish to have the presentation, it is online for the public. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we hit the mark with what council is looking for through the budget process. We've heard council's comments about where council would like to wind up with the budget. And what we're hoping is this length of time and spreading it over this length of time will give council the time and the access that you want to make sure that the budget meets your expectations. When the initial financial plan was looked at last year, it was a 5-year financial plan. And I've talked to a number of members of council that have said, well, where do you start? Well, we start with the budget process with what was approved previously. Having said that, that's not the approval for this upcoming year, right? That is just the framework of which we start building the budget. So it's not like we sit there and we come up with all of these new ideas. That's not the case. And what we want to make sure is that we're hitting the mark for council. And that's why we have this revised proposal in front of council for your consideration. Ms. McLennan is here to provide the presentation or answer questions as council wishes.
Would council want to see the presentation? Again? Yes, no, how does everyone feel? We can go straight into questions. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone was, so we'll open it up for questions and we'll start with Councillor Day.
Thank you. First, I just have a question. In the report, it suggests that we would reduce temporary revenue transfer. And I just didn't understand what that meant. Could you explain that?
Yes, thank you for the question. Those were temporary revenue transfers that we had planned because we were going to have those peak years of permit revenues. And so they were temporary. And then because we were expecting a decline, we're not going to achieve as great an increase this year. That's a temporary reduction in 26 for that transfer. It's just a reduction of what we were expecting to be excess in the first place.
Okay, so there is a reserve fund that has already been established?
Yes, in our future operating expense reserve, those monies were transferred in 24 and are planned again for 25.
Okay. And I also just wondered about the input, because looking at the approach, it looks like about 5 months before council is asked for input on the process. And I think certainly in a year like this year, where I guess there's a larger than anticipated gap between what was approved in the 5-year plan and where council would like to end up, I think it would be worth the effort to have some early consultation with council in regards to level of service, did I read that right? Were you waiting until you'd kind of, because it seems in the approach that it starts with an internal process where you identify things with staff and then it looks like about 5 months down the road, council gets input. And that might make more sense if it was earlier.
Thank you. I'm not sure what the 5 months is. I might be not reading this correctly, but the new schedule, yeah, it kind of reverted back to the schedule we used to follow prior to last year. So January, we would be holding service review, whatever we determined that to look like. And that would be the first opportunity for council to start looking at those numbers more closely.
Yes, so in the report, which the timeline was in Appendix 6, staff began discussing the current budgetary issues and constraints in September and all the way till January before council is involved in the service review area, which is that would be where we'd be talking about level of service and whether we're sticking with the same or doing something different. But because you're discussing the issues and then moving to preparing your 5-year budgets, yeah, I thought it would make sense to look at that sooner with council's input so that we're not waiting to January to get into that process with you, that maybe we could, and it may be kind of a preliminary thing that here's our list of issues that we know of in September, but I'm just thinking, I just wondered if I misunderstood this and maybe there was an opportunity for input, but waiting till January doesn't give very much control for us to direct you in the right direction, and it may actually be causing more work.
Thank you. We can certainly amend and add additional information and bring it forward to council as we move through what's the budget looking at today. We're hoping really to leverage the new tools that we have in place to really articulate how the spend is moving right now. It does require a significant manual effort sort of to try to pull out those pieces separately. So part of the approach is to allow us to fully implement and realize the benefits of the software. That doesn't mean we can't come before council earlier in December, et cetera, to just say, here's where we are at. And to be fair, I think staff are feeling some of the message coming from council. So we are aware that we're in a period of constraint and we are absolutely working towards identifying how we can come to the to reduce our tax rate to those levels. They are mentioned in the report.
So I think some check-ins along the way might be beneficial. And I also really think that that would help to refine what staff prepare to share publicly with council when we get to the service review, because service review does take a lot of time, both a lot of staff time and a lot of council time. And I'm just looking to find a way to kind of move that a little earlier so that maybe some broad strokes are there and then more refinement will occur when we have a chance that we know we're heading in the right direction. I'm trying to reduce asking staff to look at things more than once and just keep council in the loop in terms of where we're going. Thanks.
Mr. Johnson, through the mayor to council, what's really important is this is council's budget, right? And I've heard a couple of times, well, this is what staff are presenting. At the end of the day, we take direction from council. And if council is looking to give us that direction tonight, we're happy to make sure that that direction is reflected in not only the schedule, but also the approach. That's why we've come back to you with this revision. And at any time, we'll take direction from council on the budget and what your expectations are, with the understanding that this is the first step for us to get there. But if there is a number that council is looking for, you can give us that direction today, and we'll make sure that that's reflected in the proposals that we bring forward. So it's helpful for us to have the parameters and the guideposts so that we're making sure that we're bringing you with what your expectation is, because ultimately at the end of the day, council approves this budget and it is council's budget. So we're happy to take direction to make sure that we're focused on what council wants. And we heard you. We heard you at the first time that this came forward, that you were concerned that the process maybe was what we'd had previously, and we were looking to change that. And some of the feedback that we got was, we thought we were going to have new tools. And in this PowerPoint presentation, there is a new tool. The Questica work plan is going to be a dramatic difference from the way that we've done it in the past. And what we've been working on throughout this year is getting that tool ready for council through this budget process. So you will see some dramatic changes. And the service review process is best practice, right? To go over the various services to make sure that that service level is what council is expecting. Is it too high? Is it too low? Or is it right in that sweet spot, which is where council wants to be? So any feedback that you give to us, we'll make sure that's reflected in anything that we bring forward. And if there's something that council wants to give us the direction on tonight for that, we're happy to take it and make sure that the budget does reflect what council wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Councillor Olson, please.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm generally supportive of this new proposed schedule. I know that I was one of the councillors that had made a comment of, you know, the extended timeline for us gives us more time to really, you know, digest all of the material that's coming our way. So I really appreciate that. I have a couple of questions for you, Kathy. Do you think that with the extended schedule, that it will affect city's ability to meet the May 15th adoption deadline? And my second question is with respect to the rate stabilization reserve. I understand that it works a bit like a savings account to help keep taxes steady from year to year. And I also see that other CRD municipalities use one to manage tax changes and fluctuations. When do we expect Colwood to set this up? And what is the timeline for getting that policy in place?
Thank you for the questions. I do not expect that this would endanger our ability to meet the May 15 deadline. Definitely that is the primary objective of this process. And the May 11 target is in the schedule, but we have so much flexibility within there to get to that. This schedule is not unusual. We had a similar schedule previous, but there's a lot of variation and we can certainly move it up to if council feels more comfortable with an earlier conclusion to the deliberations. And the rate stabilization reserve, I have put in the report that we will do that in 2026, bring forward a bylaw. We've been planning to bring forward a reserve bylaw in general, just to articulate for council what is the purpose of all the reserves and to direct staff to sort of at the end of the year when we have surplus or deficit, how do we treat those monies and how do we move those through our reserves, and just to bring a little more transparency for council in how the reserves are managed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank you, Kathy and staff, for this was very thoughtful in what you did. I went through it very carefully. I do have some questions, of course, but it was very well done. And you know, this is a really important step in our 2026 budget approach. I think that we're trying to balance affordability, you know, with financial sustainability, of course, and you know, alignment with our strategic priorities here in the city. So it's a pretty big challenge, and the challenge we gave you is, wow, it's I don't know if it's mission impossible or mission possible, but I think it's pretty phenomenal. We did ask you for a more transparent and deliberate budget process, and you delivered. As far as I'm concerned, you delivered. I do understand this. So I just want to say at this point in time, I really appreciate staff's effort in this. And I guess the 401 was that memo I sent you in the summer. The one that you didn't like me very much for. But you know, I saw it coming. I could feel it from all the counselors, and that's why I put together what I did. So I do have some specific questions here, just quickly here. So my first question is, could you possibly explain, you know, the new budgeting software and how that will enhance transparency and public understanding compared to last year? Is there a simple answer for that one?
I think the simplest answer is we're now able to separate the different drivers of increase or decrease so that we can report on them in summary or specifically at the line item level. Also, the software is going to provide that transparency. Everyone will be able to self-guide and self-service as you move through the different expense areas. So the reporting though will be is where the bonus is for us to help us articulate. We can just separate each element of those and we can align them to the strategic objectives. So we can introduce performance measures. Everything is like in a one-stop shop versus before when actually are in process still of building up those performance measures, but the ones that we have in place will be incorporating. And then there's obviously some work to do in that area, but it's a step to get us there. And once we're there, then next year will be a big year for aligning all those performance measures that council's looking for so that you can better see and evaluate the service levels that we are delivering. And then with probably some public engagement next year, we'll get feedback on that level of service delivery to inform the process next year.
Okay, so my second question, you know that affordability does continue to be, the top priority for this council as well as our citizens. We hear that enough. The report references our 5-year plan, which was the 7.49% increase, and that was projected in the previous plan with a target that we've given you of 3%, right? So my question specifically is that, given that, according to your report, that 80% of our budget is tied to contractual obligations, right? 80%. I'm going, oh, geez, when I saw that, it made me swallow a couple times here. But so are there realistic, I mean, you can be truthful to me, are there realistic opportunities to find savings or efficiencies? I mean, realistically.
I didn't realize my mic was still it is tough, and that's why I wanted to share that information. So it is a tough ask. We are going to be looking through procurement practices as well and reviewing contracts that maybe have been renewing year over year to see if there are ways we can look at those contracts and negotiate. The hard sell is that the primary driver, right, will be our collective agreements, which are in the process of negotiation right now. So that probably won't be known before the end of this year. So we will be moving into these budgets with a forecast, but the contracted services that we can influence and change, and we're going to be looking at how we're using overtime. So wherever we can, we're going to be lifting up strategies and any options that we can to make sure that that spend is being used in the most efficient way possible and that it's justified and necessary. But it is a tough ask, and we'll be pursuing that for you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Johnson, please.
In the 2025 and 2026 financial plan, there were some additional positions that were looked at that we haven't filled. So that message was received loud and clear from council in terms of not locking you into some of the items that were considered. And those are items that we'll be putting in front of council as essentially a service reduction in some cases. So there are opportunities that are there, but it is a tough job because I think when you look at municipalities in the capital region, we're all stuck with some of the contractual obligations that we have that have those automatic increases that go into there. Those are areas that we can't do much about, but there are other areas and some service objectives that we can look at through the service review process to make sure that we're meeting council's expectation. So it is a tough job, but we're wanting to bring it in with what council's expectation is. And there'll be some tough choices for council to look at, and we'll put those forward for you. And they're not going to be the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. There are opportunities for that. But what I can tell through our budget is we're pretty lean here in terms of staffing and whatnot. But that's not to say that council can't make service level adjustments, because that's council's role.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask one last question. It's like from 40,000 feet. Okay, so it's just your opinion. It's not factual or anything. But I guess mine is, will the new budget process help us better anticipate future funding needs related to growth, climate resilience and all those things that we're chasing? Does this new this new budget process, will that help us a lot better? Because I think this is why we were complaining before, because we weren't able to project forward a little bit, we projected forward, but it was just based on the same old.
Yes, thank you. The new software allows us to, I'm distracted by excitement because we're going to be able to do scenario modeling, et cetera, so we can entertain any kind of scenario that council would like us to pursue. And even something like if we got as deep into this process as saying across the board reduction or whatever, we can model those scenarios. So it will allow us to plan as we move forward, but also just those tools that I've mentioned and the ability to compare year over year, those different elements that drive the cost drivers are the biggest thing that we want to be paying attention to year over year. And I mean, outside of increase or decrease in service, that is like the thing that we want to be focusing on. So absolutely those will be apparent and easily much easier to report out on than in the current environment.
I knew the answer. I just wanted to make sure council knew what you knew. Thanks very much, Council.
One of the things that we have difficulty with, and council does as well, is when a development application comes in front of council and it's rezoned, there's no trigger or lever to understand when that development's going to actually happen. So there's opportunities for council to put more surety into that process to ensure that what's come forward to council actually gets built within a set amount of time, instead of this speculation that we wind up with ourselves. And we'll be bringing back some options for council for more surety. And it's not just options for surety for council, but it's also for members of the public. We've got 2 applications in front of you tonight. When they're going to move forward, we're not sure in terms of what the market will allow. And we're going to be bringing some options to council so that we can see the number of units and when potentially that they will move forward. Because right now, it's a little bit like throwing a dart at the dartboard to see, when that development's actually going to happen with all of the approved units that we have. When does that actually move forward to that development phase? So you get the public all excited or not excited about development, and then who knows when it's going to transpire or come forward. So that's one of the areas that we're looking to provide greater predictability for council, the public, and ourselves to see where capacity is going and the timelines and levers for that. So that will provide us a better opportunity to do better forecasting than what we can do right now, which is arbitrarily thinking, well, maybe they're going to move ahead with this phase, maybe they'll move that, but it's all up to market conditions. So there will be options for council moving forward, and it would be a change to the planning process. We're going to have that conversation with council shortly to bring forward the options for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think that what concerns me most about municipal budgets, I guess, is that it's more about like it's taken on the way that it's dealt with is that it's kind of how it operates is that the departments are what they're looking to spend, and then we go to the second phase of how we generate revenue to meet that. And what I would like to see is the revenue first, the revenue and grants first. What do we reasonably think we can bring in, tax capacity, fees and reserves, and then what do we spend, and make it work, revenue first versus expense first sequencing, I guess. And yeah, and just and then have a baseline that includes service level adjustments and fee cost recovery adjustments, and internal efficiency measures. And I just feel like that information is missing a lot of the times when we're making these decisions as a council, that we're not understanding the full picture of what the revenue side looks like, and we're making decisions based on expenses here and there and not seeing the whole picture. I just wanted to comment to that, but I do appreciate this document that we have before us and the process transparency in it, the dashboards and the service review cadence. I do appreciate that. So thank you for the work on that.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. The challenge on the operating side when we start talking about budgeting at the revenue level is there's most of the grant funding is really on capital and special initiative projects. There's less operating funding available, but we do, in this approach, there is also highlighted to maximize and explore grant opportunities. So we will be doing that. I think that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's different because, you know, coming out of private industry, I'm not used to working the reverse way that we do it right now. And we find out how much we're going to spend, and then we do the revenue. It just seems backwards to me. Like I'm getting used to it now, and I understand why. I do understand why now, but it's a strange way. And go ahead, Kathy.
One more thing. Well, there is another, like there was mention of the different budget approach methodologies, and there are a large number, and they all have benefits and cons, but there is an approach that is like that. That's called target-based budgeting, where you figure out what your revenue is, and then you have a little gap in there. And so we would work towards that when we're looking at what our expenses need to be. The challenge is we're just not ready to shift to a model like that at this point in time. It requires a significant effort just to build the inputs necessary to prepare us for that type of budgeting.
Yeah, so we're getting a mixture of methodologies right now because it's too late to do zero-based budgeting. You know, like we're in between. No, it was great. Thank you very much. And I'm going, Councillor Day, second time.
Thank you. I was going to propose a motion, but that last discussion just sparked in my mind a question, because part of where we are today is related to when we finished the budget previously and look at how that rolls out into our 5-year plan. We saw that 7.49, I think it was, percent increase in there, but recognized at that point, at least I recognized at that point in our budgetary discussions, that that's probably not a very great place to land on. It was kind of it was going to be a difficult year. I recognize that right at that point. But to ask you to address that at that time, you were already so busy with the budget that you were just finishing up that it felt unfair to ask you to start looking at how to reduce that when your workload is heavy enough when you're doing your budgeting. So we sort of had this chicken and egg problem in a few areas. But the new methodology that's discussed in the report, using a variety of methods, including priority-based, zero-based, or target-based approach, makes it kind of, if we treat different areas of the budget differently, like that gets very confusing too. So our most realistic budget is always the one that we're in, and the 5-year plan is kind of our 5-year plan. It can be adjusted, but it has left me with some concerns for the future because there's so many unknowns, you know, not too many links between when development gets approved to when it will actually be realized, and you know, whether or not we have sufficient resources to meet the needs of each development. And we have the ever increasing costs for sewers, for example, as we may reach our limit and have penalties, et cetera, have to adjust all kinds of things, including our sewer user fees. So it becomes really difficult. So all of this to say that there still may remain, even though we do a really good budget process and we have great staff working hard to do it, we may still have outlying issues for the community that we have not yet grappled with, that perhaps we are wanting to think about well in advance so that we can be prepared for them. So I'm looking to try to find a way to put this in a motion that would be acceptable around the table, that we endorse the budget approach as revised with, and it's kind of a loosey-goosey suggestion, but what I'm trying to do is insert council check-ins at the appropriate times. I don't think that means that we need to ask you to bring back a whole nother report and delay everything. But I think it does mean that we need to maybe identify points at which it would be useful to have those budget check-ins. So if you're starting in September to discuss the current issues and constraints, at some point in time after you've discussed it and before you prepare your budgets, we maybe need to check in at some point in time with council there to tell us what you're seeing. And then it goes on to departments submitting their special and capital requests and management review and reprioritize based on constraints. So maybe that November, December timeframe is another check-in spot with council. And then once we get to service review, I would like to see us find a way to make that less labor intensive. There was a lot of staff waiting to present. So I don't know how we could manage that, but I'd be looking for some way, whether it's video conferencing that they only have to tick in and give us a little video blurb, answer a few questions, and then they're free to go and they don't have to, we don't have to be quite so demanding of their time, even though it's more their time than ours, because there's a lot more staff than there is of us. So my suggestion is that we adopt the process as outlined with additional council check-ins in September, October, November, and January. And that's a motion.
Okay. Can you put that up, please, when you can, Marcy? Mr. Johnson, you okay with this? I'd like to suggest something else when we're talking about this right now. I find, and I appreciate all the work that goes into service reviews. I mean, it's phenomenal. But just in my experience now, I've only had 7 years on council, where council has had several more years than I have. But from just one time management point of view, I appreciate the amount of work that goes into it. But our value added in that chain is pretty darn low. And it's almost like you'd want to say, here it is, let us put the onus on us to look at it. And if we have questions or we want to change it, we can change it instead of having every group presented and we don't add a lot. Like once in a while, we might add something that, that's a good one. But for the number of days that we go through that service review, 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 meetings, that's just craziness. And just on my experience in other municipal local government crap, it's we get it as they actually put it on the consent agenda, for God's sakes, but it puts the onus on us, and we have to look at it, we read it, and if you have questions, and it's very few, especially CRD 24 directors around the table. And I'm just amazed at how fast that actually goes, because we're getting so good at it. It's not like we're new at it. So to me, to save a lot of time, you present it, you say, here you go, folks, have a look at it. If there's any questions or anything that you want changed, we can have that one meeting to do it instead of having everyone lined up, and doing presentations and us looking starry-eyed and missing the most important parts of it in actual fact sometimes, because a lot of times things are slid in the back door to say, hey, we're going to be doing this. And then and then we're not paying attention, especially when it comes to the financial approvals. And then we go, wow, what the heck? We don't remember that happening because we were so focused on the service review itself. Do you understand? I mean, this happens every single year that I've gone through this. So, that's just another consideration. That will eliminate a lot of your time. I personally think you still have to put the time in to put the service review material together, but to actually sit there through 4 or 5 council meetings, I think it's not a good use of your time. And I don't think it's a really value added thing on our time, but comments there.
If I may. So the service review is a best practice that we do want to continue, but we want to look at service review light or whatever we want to call it, so that we're bringing council the value and it feels like value. We don't want it to just be an exercise that you participate in that doesn't deliver on meaning, or you don't understand the decisions that we're asking you to make during those sessions. So we appreciate this feedback because we absolutely we want to deliver what it is that council is asking for. We want to deliver the right information in the right way.
Okay, that's great.
If I may, to add what Kathy's just shared, I mean, service review is an opportunity as well for the service areas to highlight for council what has transpired in the year. We absolutely could shift the process where we simply publish highlights and we don't present on those. There's also a challenge, as you know, you consider an annual budget through an annual budget approach, but ultimately you are asked to endorse and approve a 5-year financial plan. The last, I would suggest 3 years, that has also been one of the focuses during service review, is that we're not just speaking about 1 year's budget. We highlight at minimum 2-year budgets so that it's not as much of a surprise, that pivot between an annual budget consideration and then when you're presented with a 5-year financial plan. So it is a balance and a bit of a juggle there.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to bring us back on track here because there is a motion on the floor. I should get a seconder so we can open up for discussion. Can I get okay, Councillor Jordan, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Day.
Sorry, we didn't quite capture what I was trying to put forward. So the dates, it's not September and October, it's either, September, within the September October timeframe. So maybe September/October and November/January, because I'm not looking for a hard and fast date. I'm looking for check-ins at this kind of beginning stage when you've got your feel for your budgets and you're talking with staff. Bring us into the picture so that we know where we're heading and how things are going. And then probably before we go into service review, whatever way it may or may not be done, November/January, whatever date works. Because there may be reasons why a particular time frame doesn't work, which is fine. I'm just looking to have some check-ins before we get down to brass tacks so that there's less chance of there being a surprise and us maybe not being on the same page.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, please.
Thank you. This is the intention to do quarterly reports with the updated financial picture so the council isn't surprised at the end of the year. We have a quarterly report that's coming forward in November. That would be council's check-in. There will be some of the things that have happened through the year, some of the most notable things that we're bringing to council's attention. And it would be every quarter. So every quarter, council will get that feedback in terms of where we're at from a revenue side, where we're at with the expenses, any sort of extenuating circumstances, as well as our quarterly report on the initiatives and where we're at, those that are green, yellow, and red, so that they're up for council's consideration. So this is part of our repertoire that we'll be bringing throughout the year. I think with this motion talking about September and October, well, those have passed, right? We're into November now. So, you're talking about future next year, what council would look like. And what I'm telling you is we will have 4 quarterly reports. And those quarterly reports will be centered around the budget with all of that financial information. So you're not surprised when you receive the budget. Now, I'd love to say that we've met our timelines for the quarterly reporting. We've been down a staff member in finance, which has made it difficult to make that quarterly reporting happen. But you will see that in our meeting in November, or at the very latest of December. So that check-in will be there. We are scheduling that for council's consideration.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this? Here, call the question. Any opposed to the motion? Yeah, that's what was, there was a motion for this made by Councillor Day, seconded by Councillor Jordison.
So I'm opposed to this. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm opposed to it.
Okay, so 2 opposed, Councillor Gord and Councillor Olson. Okay, motion carries then. Okay, we'll move to new business, please. Off-cycle 2025 off-cycle grant and application. Could you introduce this, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the 2025 off-cycle grant and aid application. Jared McKay, our manager of finance, has the report on your agenda. The recommendation is that council consider whether or not to award a $5,000 grant and aid the Construction Foundation of British Columbia. The report is in your agenda package, and Mr. McKay will be here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions? Can I get a motion, please? Councillor Jordison? Or you have a question? Yeah. Oh, you certainly can. You can do anything you want to do here. Oh. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Mr. Mann has made a valid point in public participation that we are nearing the end of our grant and aid, and we do have 7,100 left in the fund, and I'd just like to make an amendment to the motion amendment to the motion to award the 7,100 grant and aid to the Construction Foundation, British Columbia.
Do we have a seconder? Don't have a seconder. Don't have a seconder. So we'll go back. Does anyone want to make the recommended motion? Okay. Councillor Grove, seconder. Councillor Olson, discussion. I'll tell you the reason why I think most people are kind of reluctant, Mike, because it's coming around Christmas time, and we have all these things that we have to give to, so we want to have a little bit of a kitty there. And by the way, Mike, you should be asking Langford for a lot more. You got to remember their revenue is 3 times higher than our revenue. So you go back to them, say if we give 5, they're giving 15. That's how it should work. Anyways, at this point, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Okay, Councillor Day opposes. Okay, motion carries. We'll move on, please. 9.2, Goldfinch Building Lease Agreement. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the Goldfinch Building Lease Agreement. Cameron Neal, our Economic Development and Marketing Coordinator, has put forward a report. The recommendation is that council approve the lease agreement between the City of Colwood and the Arts and Cultures Colwood Society for 170 Goldfinch Road as presented in Appendix 1 and authorize the corporate officer to execute the agreement.
Is that both you and, I just want a clarification. Should that say CAO and the corporate officer? Because your names are both on it right now. Just want to legalize it through the motion.
If that's what it says, we should change it to that.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the CAO and the corporate officer then. Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Okay, Councillor Olson, Councillor Ward. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to bylaws. Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151. Mr. Johnson, could you introduce whoever's speaking to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151, 1989.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Councillor Grove.
No, as there may be an apprehension of bias in my case, I will recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I just leave.
Yes, please. Turn off your mic. Okay, sorry, Mr. Johnson. Sorry. Oh, yes. I don't think anyone's wanted to speak at this time. I think they spoke when they did, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. This is Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151, 1989, amendment number 222, Metchosin and Lagoon Neighbourhood, C9, 333 Metchosin Road, bylaw number 2056, 2025, for consideration first, second, and third reading, reconsideration of rezoning application at 333 Metchosin Road. The recommendation is in your presentation, or is in your package. Our manager of planning, Mari, is here. And there is a presentation. Should you wish to receive it?
Yes, please. Let's proceed with it, Mari. You get your turn. Next one.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this presentation is on the reconsideration of the rezoning application for 3333 Metchosin Road. So the application before you is to rezone the subject property from R1 to C9, the Metchosin and Lagoon Neighbourhood Hub Zone. And that is to enable a 10-unit, 3-story apartment development, proposed to have 9 residential units, and then a live, work, or commercial component, which is consistent with the OCP designation of neighborhood center, and more specifically, the Metchosin and Lagoon Neighbourhood Hub. So just going into the application history, it was first introduced at the May 5th Planning and Land Use Committee, where the recommendation was to advance the proposal without a recommendation for review and consideration of council prior to readings. It was then forwarded to the May 26th council meeting for consideration of first reading. First reading was not given, and council resolved to direct staff to return to committee of the whole with options for improvements to the intersection at Metchosin Road and Lagoon Road, and that suggested improvements include costings and timelines for delivery. Engineering staff then brought forward suggested improvements at the July 14th committee of the whole meeting, where it was resolved that staff proceed with interim safety measures at the Metchosin Road and Lagoon Road intersection, including the installation of an LED enhanced stop sign and the regular repainting of road surface markings while awaiting the completion of the transportation master plan. The LED enhanced stop sign has now been installed, so staff are now bringing the application back for first, second, and third reading this evening. So the C9 zone enables the density envisioned for the Metchosin and Lagoon Neighbourhood Hub designation outlined in the OCP. This designation is within our intended growth area, which is where the greatest residential densities and commercial uses are intended. The zone is meant to encourage a mix of small-scale neighborhood serving uses, such as bakeries, personal services, and retail stores. Creating a new mixed-use commercial zone as opposed to just a multifamily zone is intended to encourage those small neighborhood serving uses. While 3333 Metchosin Road is the only property being considered for this zone tonight, the zone is not meant to be site-specific. Other properties who come forward proposing a rezoning within the Metchosin and Lagoon Neighbourhood Hub may rezone to the C9 zone and will still be required to meet all standard rezoning processes that include committee and council considerations and notifications. The intent there is that the regulations are already developed, so applicants would have to create a proposal to fit within those existing regulations. Just like other text amendments, the C9 zone can be amended in the future if required. So revisions have been made to the C9 zone since the May 26th council meeting, which includes adding attached housing as a permitted use, adding clear language regarding the ground floor commercial requirements, requiring a minimum of 10% of total gross floor area as ground floor commercial, of which no more than 50% can be office. And that is really to ensure that we're encouraging a walkable area with commercial uses that activate that frontage. We've also added that there is no maximum floor area included for the live work units, as it is more driven by the residential component of that unit rather than the commercial. Just to add some context to the commercial requirement requiring the minimum of 10%. So based on the site plans that they have, the gross floor area of this proposed development is 887 meters squared. So 10% of that is 88 meters squared, or around 950 square feet. The original C9 zone had a previous requirement of 50 meters squared. So in this rendition of their site plans, the 10% is higher. Notifications were completed for both the consideration of the initial bylaw reading held on May 26th and the consideration of bylaw reading scheduled for this evening. These notifications included postcard mailouts to properties within a 100-meter radius, advertisements in 2 editions of the newspaper, and a highlighted notice on the city's website. So council may wish to consider the staff recommendation or any of the other alternatives seen above, including deferring for more information, denying the application, or another resolution from council. The applicant is also here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty. I'll open the floor for questions from council. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I guess a big part of my concern is that we're not there yet on the ultimate road design for Metchosin Road. And by approving this prior to that, we may not be able to realize the road dedications that we ultimately will potentially need as well. So I'm just wondering, I guess, when we're looking at this, what consideration we have to give it isn't really known yet, and the configuration is quite different. So is there a reason why it's brought forward? It's strictly because the developer wanted to bring this forward at this time?
Yes, that's correct. So the applicant submitted an application, so we have to process that. The C9 zone does include requirements for road dedication along Metchosin Road for a right-of-way width of 25 meters for Metchosin and then 20 meters for Lagoon Road. Road dedication is a requirement of this application, and it's a condition in the development agreement. They must submit the plan of road dedication ahead of adoption of the amending bylaw.
And I'm just wondering also, because it's a corner lot and the OCP itself does describe that corner lots do need special consideration. And it might have been less impactful to the neighboring properties had it been configured with its entrance, its front lot line being Lagoon rather than being Metchosin as it currently is. Is that something that was determined by ourselves or that was determined by the developer?
So our land use bylaw does define front lot line, and for a corner lot, it is the shorter of the two property lines. So when the applicant does come in for development permit, that's when we would look for proper setbacks. We have included an exterior side setback within the zone. So at this point, at the rezoning stage, that is the regulatory condition that we would use. Once we get to the development permit stage, there are further development permit guidelines to help guide corner lots. And at that time, we would determine what the front lot line is.
So the proposal as presented with the location of the parking could change at that point?
So, and I think this is one thing that Jason was speaking to is just our processes at the city of Colwood. So this is a rezoning application where we're creating the zone and we're creating those regulatory conditions. We're identifying what the permitted uses are and what the density is to align with the OCP. At development permit, that is going to be the time where we know what they are proposing. We do not register site plans like on title or anything like that. So what we see at rezoning is consistent. It's aligned with the zone that we're proposing, but we have no tool to like finalize that. Like there could be options for that to change at development permit.
Okay, there and the other thing is that our OCP is overdue for review. There's been a lot of moving parts lately, so we haven't got to that yet. And the C9 zone for the commercial node was kind of a new trial in the OCP that we have, and may not really fit very well with this development having such a small percentage of commercial application. As you mentioned, it's largely residential. And so I'm just concerned that we're relying on an old plan for our OCP designation in an area that, at least for me, it feels very constrained because of transportation issues. So I'm just wondering if there's any implication from such a very small amount of it being really commercial oriented, a live work space of less than 1,000 square feet is really not very significant. So does it really fit under the C9 zone, or would it be more appropriate? And what would the difference be if we looked at it strictly as a residential zone?
So the applicant submitted their application with this proposal for the 9 residential units and then a commercial component. That is what they are proposing, what they've done their feasibility assessments and their performas, and that is what they are proposing and what they're putting forward. And we develop a zone to fit within that because there is no other zone for that area right now. If council wishes to see more commercial, we can certainly put that in, but then the applicant likely might not be able to meet that requirement. And so this is sort of what we're trying to do with template zones, is that we create these zones that council believe aligns with the OCP, and we have those regulatory conditions so that applicants can come forward and we don't have to make the zone up as we go. Those regulatory conditions are already there, and we can send them that zone and they submit a proposal that already aligns with that. We don't have to create it as we go. And so that is sort of the intent of a template zone. Because we're not fully there yet. We're starting to with zones like the TGA one. We have had a few developments that are proposing to rezone to that TGA one zone. But yes, if council doesn't believe that the C9 zone is aligned with the OCP, we can certainly look at amending that. Just knowing that this particular applicant might not be able to meet that.
Thank you. That's all my questions for now.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think that this project is fully compliant with the OCP, to be honest, based on some research that I've done. But I am prepared to make an amendment to the staff recommendation when the time is appropriate.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question of staff. When was council asked about the C9 zone and what we thought about it, or what we thought should be in it, or any of that?
So it was just when the application was brought. I'm just looking for the date. It was May 5th for planning and land use, and then May 26th was the last time that this application was reviewed by council.
So the C9 zone was constructed or put together by staff, and it hasn't come to council to ask if that's the appropriate zone, or if that is the appropriate, if it meets the, if it meets all the requirements. My concern is the number and types of new households that are within that zone. I think the C9 zone, I think any new zone that is, and any new zone that comes before the city that's coming forward as a new zone needs to be reviewed by council. I think it needs to be to see that this is the way we're supposed to be moving with the OCP and everything, and density within the city. So I have concerns that it doesn't meet the OCP requirements. And the C9 zone, I just feel that it's missing some important items. So I think this needs to be reviewed further, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have some questions myself. So it's interesting because, being an engineer, I look at drawings a lot. So I look at drawings and it all it's interesting. You look at it, oh, this works for me. And it's not until you actually go to the site to see what's at the site, right? And you go, oh, wait a second here. I didn't see all these other things around there. A drawing doesn't show that, right? And so that was an eye-opener for me, to tell you the truth. That was a big eye-opener. And I guess because the thing that I was trying to really establish here, first of all, what is a neighborhood hub? What is the definition of a neighborhood hub? And I always thought before, like as a counselor, when I was on council, the way that was explained to me was commercial on the lower floor and living above. That's what a neighborhood hub was. That's how it was defined to me at the time. So it was pretty clear. So that bottom floor was, coffee shops and everything, make it look like a neighborhood. So in this case, I don't think 10% of the space makes it a neighborhood hub. I don't know. That's just my feeling on this right now. And looking, okay, so that's number one. we have to clearly define this and be really strong on this kind of thing right now. I don't think we can just keep making it up as we go along, because part of the strategy of course, of council right now is we're trying to diversify our revenues right now, so that we can have a sustainable economic future, which means more commercial. And so this isn't achieving this to me. This is just how I see things. So that's number one issue right now. So it's a big bee in my bonnet right now. We've got to define what that is. I'm not willing to go for this until you define, we define it and we agree amongst ourselves what that means. Number one. Number two, I think I'll have to back you up, Councillor Day, on the whole thing of what we're doing there. Like, we did some stopgap measures right now as far as traffic control. Well, I'd love the lighted sign. We're doing this, we're doing that. But no one's ever, we don't have those drawings, I don't think, showing turning lanes. And do we need more right away there? Are we about to put something there and then we're gonna go, oh shoot, we blew it here. And and then what happens? So, because we're not, and maybe you have, I'm just saying, I don't see any evidence of this showing that, hey, by the way, in the future, that building fits there because this is what we plan on doing on that particular corner. And this is what makes it really difficult because it is sitting on that corner. I would have been a lot happier if the property beside it was also part of that, then I think it would have been a no-brainer to me. And then as far as setbacks, I think that in all consideration, when we put this in a neighborhood of single detached homes, I think our requirement should be larger setbacks. To me, you put a 4-story building in there, we should have larger setbacks, not smaller setbacks. We shouldn't be making variances for smaller setbacks, because that destroys the neighbors and that destroys, we have to show respect to the people that have existing homes there. So they're the things that come, immediate to me. I was really sitting on the fence on this one. When I initially saw this, I was for it. But the more and more after looking at it right now, not defining what a neighborhood hub is, and you can't play games with, well, I asked the CEO this afternoon the question right now. I says, well, do they consider one of these live work units? Is that considered commercial or is it residential? I think the answer is residential because I used to have a consulting thing in my house and no one came after me for commercial taxes. Shouldn't have said that to the city. But anyways, that's the way it was. It was residential. So there's games potentially being played here. Like I said, the biggest disappointment that I found right now was we were hoodwinked, and I'll say this publicly, we were hoodwinked when we allowed that building over by the Royal Bay High School. I was always under the understanding that was a totally commercial thing on the bottom. So what did we get? We got all residential, but it's one little Tim Hortons on the end. And that is called Neighbourhood. Really? So I think, before I'm ready to vote on this, I definitely want an explanation of that. I would like to see what our overall high level plans are for the next maybe 10, 15 years, what we're going to be doing with that corner. Do we need more right away? I don't know. And the other thing too, the last thing I just want to talk about is these setbacks right now. We should be looking at that and show respect to the neighbors, that we should have, I think, greater setbacks than what we have outlined. That's my opinion. And that's why, there's no motion on the floor yet, but that's why I find it hard to support this right now, as is. Councillor Ward, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suspect you've been looking at my notes here. Really, I think I follow this obviously as chair of the Land Use and Planning Committee right through to where we sit today. And I think the one thing I'm grateful for, and actually Caleb Crooks mentioned it during public participation, is that we've moved away from the traffic conversation and public safety conversation. I think that to me, was a misdirection. I think there was a lot of conversation around that. At committee of the whole meeting, I was absent from I think in the community, the online narrative and the letters that we receive focus a lot on safety at that intersection. And this development has become a lightning rod for that, but they're not linked together. They've been conflated and they really are two separate issues. I think we have an onus to improve safety on Metchosin Road, to improve Metchosin Road as it is, and we're taking steps to do that. We, as a council, advanced a motion to prioritize that as part of our transportation master plan. So I draw a big distinction between the two, with the exception of what Councillor Day raised, which is to ensure that we have the ability to do the work that we need to do. I think that's an imperative. For me, I think, Mr. Mayor, where you touched on it was, I look at what a neighborhood or community hub is, and the best definition I found is that it's a central, accessible place that provides a variety of services, activities, and resources based on the needs of the local community. So kind of a wordy way of saying ground floor commercial with, 4 to 6 units above it, but something that draws people to that corner, like the bakery and what was a corner store across the road, some sort of service, a place that people walk to from their home. And I think the challenge here, this isn't about fixing the blame, it's about fixing the problem. Staff's role is to take the OCP and interpret that and apply it. And I've used this expression before. It's like the law, right? The OCP is the law, and so they follow the letter of the law in determining what fits there. I think council's role is to interpret the spirit of that law. So to follow the OCP, but understand where it makes sense and where it doesn't. And perhaps the onus is on us to define, okay, if this is a community hub, what does that look like? And your example is one that rings true to me. I mean, it's the very reason I decided to run for municipal council, is because I felt the city had lost its way in zoning an area to be a neighborhood hub. And that in turn allowed a developer, through no fault of their own, they're a for-profit business, I get it, to leverage that zoning to build a large apartment building with a minuscule commercial element. So the lost opportunity for the city is high, and the lost opportunity for the community will never come back. You had what would have been a core gathering place for a section of community that isn't replaced by a shopping plaza across the road. So, this is a smaller scale situation, but we run the risk of doing the same thing here, making the same mistake. And I'm loath to say no to reasonable, gentle infill. I think that is a very good thing. And I think we have to do a better job of finding the right places and making sure that we get the community on board where it makes sense. But in this particular case, it's a real anomaly in that it is too much too soon, and we have to do our work, I think, first, and define what do we want that hub to look like, and if it should be a community hub. That's the other question. If it shouldn't be, then in fact, then we have to take that approach as well, and it may not sit well with some folks, but some of these decisions don't, whether they align with the OCP or not. So for me, I'm not supporting it, but it has nothing to do with traffic and everything to do with interpreting the spirit of the OCP, and maybe doing a better job as council to define that so that staff know what to do moving forward.
Thanks very much. I guess we got ahead of ourselves. I didn't even get the motion on the floor so we can properly discuss this. We're sort of asking questions, making comments. Bad on us. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll just see if I can get a motion on the floor. Does anyone want to move the staff recommendation? Not seeing anything. Does anyone want to make a motion? Yes, I know, Councillor Olsen, you said you have an alternate motion. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things. The OCP implementation principle 12.4 promotes incremental rezoning and engagement prior to adoption, giving all 3 readings on the same night prioritizes efficiency over interactive public input. So that's one issue that I have with first, second, and third reading tonight on this proposed development. So I would like to suggest some amendments to the staff recommendation. That we proceed with first and second readings only this evening, that we require at least 25% commercial frontage along Metchosin and Lagoon Road, increase open space minimum from 5% to 10%, and to increase front setback from 2 meters to 4 meters for arterial flexibility. So those would be amendments to the original motion as per the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Can you get that on the screen for us, Marcy? I'll wait a second here. The second one's totally out of there.
Councillor Wilson, could you just repeat that for us?
Sure.
She's got it typed out, maybe.
Yeah, I do. So the suggested amendments is that we proceed with first and second readings only. That we require at least 25% commercial frontage along Metchosin and Lagoon Road, increase open space to a minimum, or sorry, increase open space minimum from 5% to 10%. And increase, sorry. 25% commercial frontage along Metchosin and Lagoon Road. That we increase open space minimum from 5% to 10%. I could have given this to you earlier, couldn't I? And increase front setback from 2 meters to 4 meters. For arterial flexibility.
I think you still need the 25 minutes.
You took out too much, I think. Could I get a seconder, please, and before we open up for discussion? See a seconder. Okay, Councillor Ward. I'm going to open this up for discussion. We'll get you to motivate Councillor Wilson. Councillor Ward, second.
Okay.
Motivation, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to better align this bylaw with the OCP, and I've not been comfortable with the low requirement for commercial. So I think that, you know, it's extremely, I think we need to increase the commercial viability of this area. And so hence why I wanted to bring forward bringing that up to 25% for commercial frontage. I have concerns that we don't have enough road allowance. So hence the increase in the setback from 2 meters to 4 meters. And in order to meet the OCP requirements, I wanted to increase the open space from 5% to 10%. It is just to bring this in alignment with the official community plan.
Okay. Seconder, do you want to add anything to this? No, thanks. I'll open it up to the floor on the motion on the floor. Councillor Day.
Thank you. So I had thought about Metchosin Road quite a bit. And one way that I had thought to achieve in this motion is achieved by increasing the setbacks. I would like to increase the amount of roadway that we secure to 30 meters for Metchosin Road because other sections of Metchosin Road are going to require, like from Wishart to Souk, I believe that we are going to eventually need 4 lanes in order to 3 or 4 and in some places, but definitely if the road that we take is larger, it allows for infrastructure that would support all of the things that I think residents and council members have been talking about, including supporting transit by having good transit space for them to pull off the road in, as well as having turning access to and from some of the projects. In the past, Souk Road, which is a major corridor for us and may be busier than what Metchosin Road is, but there's no telling how busy that road is going to be in the future. And I think securing the right of way would be beneficial to the city, given that it is a very important corridor. And when the Ministry of Transportation and Highways was responsible for Souk Road, they would not allow entrances and exits onto the road within a certain distance of an intersection. And over time, that's been eroded by changing intersections, new roads, etc. But the principles remained that access and egress very close to intersection points are problematic. So I thought a better way to achieve that was the 30 meters. This also works with having the setbacks that at least the land could be acquired in the future, but it makes it more difficult of a process and more expensive than simply naming the road width that we require. I'm not opposed to development of the lot, but I am opposed to allowing the development itself to constrain the roadway. So if anyone else was interested in a 30-meter section, it does not have to be built to 30 meters immediately, but we're future-proofing that road when we do those types of investments.
Thanks very much. Comments, John, on that?
I'll take as much road as you'll give me. No, Councillor Day's not wrong. We currently through council have the direction on Souk Road to acquire 30 meters. And we haven't got an official direction on council for Metchosin Road. I'm quite certain that through the TMP process that we're in the midst of and our next steps with regards to public engagement and so on will determine that. We are coming back to council with regards to our initial steps on Metchosin Road in our December council meeting. To give you an idea of where we're at with regards to the direction council gave us about a month ago. Currently, what we're using is our subdivision servicing bylaw, which is 25 meters. So this would be approximately another 2.5 meters on that side of the property.
Okay. So would you be agreeable to a friendly amendment on that?
Yeah.
Change it to 25 to 30 meters then?
Yeah.
Okay. Marcy, could you change that from 25 to 30, please? Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I think on this motion, I think we're still missing about the neighborhood hub and whether this is the right location for a neighborhood hub. And I just feel like the bylaw falls short on a few things like how to describe the housing that would go in there. We have an opportunity to use the C9 elsewhere, and it should fit various areas, right? So I just feel like it doesn't suggest what kind of housing we need, what kind of how many, the amount of housing, and I just feel like the setbacks as well. I don't know. And then just the fact that we're still kind of wrestling with this policy on gentle infill and how to respect our neighbors that have lived there, that are, the older community in Colwood, and how to manage development next to those homes. And that concerns me, that we're still working through that policy, and it's not being addressed here. Thanks.
But I'll ask, point the question to you, Mari. So right now, that's what I think is unfair too, because when I actually inspected the site, saw where the parking lot, the parking spaces were going to be, and then looked at the house next to it, I went, holy mackerel, it's almost like it's right up against it. It's wow. So is there a variance required here? Were they asking for less of a setback there? Or are they do they comply with the setbacks that we're supposed to have there?
Yeah, so our OCP and our design guidelines, it provides recommended setbacks. The setbacks that were included within the zone are aligned with those recommended setbacks in the DP guidelines. When we're discussing the direction for the gentle infill strategy, so this area, the neighborhood center designation, is identified in our OCP as our intended growth area. So that is our transit growth area, our Colwood corners, and our neighborhood centers. And so that's where our highest densities are supposed to be focused. And gentle infill, we do have existing policies in the OCP, and it is directing infill to be within our neighborhood designation. And so within this designation, there is no policies to support gentle infill in respecting other properties within adjacency of that property, because this is where our highest densities are meant to be focused. Our neighborhood designation, which is where the other application this evening is, that is more where our gentle infill is supposed to be located. And gentle infill can come in a number of different housing forms. So it can include secondary suites, but it also includes townhomes. So that's just a little bit of context for you there.
Okay. So you're saying it complies right now with what we're trying to do, that the setbacks that we have with the neighboring house that touches it? Like I'm just thinking of future, right? Because say that was surrounded by houses, is that right? Is that setback right? Like I would tend to think you'd want it because of the height of the building, you'd want a bigger setback. That's just my humble opinion. I am not a planner, but I think in fairness, that's what we should be doing. We should be respecting that. And I just need your expert opinion on that, because I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I know it doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem right. That's just my intuition.
Yeah, thank you. So this designation, the Metchosin and Lagoon Neighborhood Hub, is within 200 meters of the intersection of Metchosin and Lagoon. So the expectation would be that the properties within 200 meters of this designation would develop up to 3 stories and an FAR of 1.75. And so the expectation would be that the neighboring lot could come in and rezone to this zone and build up to 3 stories and an FAR of 1.75. And that is aligned with the OCP. So this is the tricky part of these areas that are identified for higher density. It's sort of, we need to be forward looking, and not sort of restricting the density because of the neighboring properties. Because the idea and the intent of the designation is to develop to higher densities.
Thank you. Councillor Day, please.
And apologize for jumping back in there. It just occurred to me that there was a question that I had in my mind, and you also mentioned in your questions, and that was about tax revenue. So my understanding of the nodes was that it was also a way to elevate our commercial tax revenue. So I guess I'm hoping, because Kathy is here, that she may be able to tell us whether or not we are able to realize commercial tax revenue from places like this that are developed in Colwood. The corner of Kelly and Souk, for example, was our very first commercial residential split. And I'm not fully certain if we are realizing commercial taxation on those properties. So there are, it's a 4-story building at the corner of Kelly and Souk Road. It has commercial on the first floor, and I don't know whether they're paying commercial rates or residential rates.
I can attempt to answer. I'm not familiar with this particular property. I can get back to council on that. However, the zoning doesn't determine the class that they pay for their taxes. That's based on the use of the property. So it is likely that if they have been assessed properly, that they would be paying business commercial rates on that piece of the property that BC assessment has determined to be commercial.
I guess that leaves me really wishing that we would get more answers before we make this decision, because what I am hearing from staff trying to realize the vision of the OCP and increase density in this area is not really consistent with my understanding of why we developed those nodes, which was to both create, walkable, accessible centers within our city, but also to increase our tax revenue and diversify our tax base. And what I think is at risk is not achieve the additional commercial revenue, as in the case of the other neighborhood use in Royal Bay, another issue area. And I'd like that answered before we choose to make a decision based on a presumption that we would be diversifying our tax base, which I think is the biggest driver for why those nodes came to exist in our OCP. And to me, those neighborhood centers are nowhere near seen as trying to drive the densities that we have in the Triangle Lands or other parts of Colwood to try to achieve greater densities. So in trying to manage that fit, whether or not, we call, Lagoon Road the front or Metchosin Road the front, I know that I think that Lagoon possibly and definitely Metchosin need more road right of way in order to achieve the movements that all of the other developments that are feeding onto these roads need. I also know that I'd like to know the answer to, are we actually diversifying our tax base through these nodes, or is that something that was a good idea, but we don't have the way to realize it? So I'm going to leave that as a suggestion rather than a motion, because I don't want to take away from how other people are feeling about this, but my preference would be to see some answers before we make a decision.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd almost right now feel like sending this back planning and land use for a recommendation on what we do with that area. Because, it's trying to figure out if this is a neighborhood hub or if it should be a neighborhood or, what it should be. The OCP was written when the OCP was written, right? And we never ever, it never went down into this finer detail when the rubber hits the road, as I would call it right now. Because my goal would, if we do want to make this a neighborhood hub, then I don't want to see 25%. I'd like to see 100% on the bottom, to tell you the truth. So that's how I feel about this. Either we're yeah. Yeah. So, go ahead, Jason, please. Thank you.
I hear council's consternation with this. You haven't seen this bylaw. Typically, what would happen when you're creating a shelf-ready zone is it's a schedule that's attached to the zoning bylaw that would be implemented when the time was right. This, to me, seems like we've created the zone, and council has a number of concerns with it. If council's looking to refine the zone, make sure that it's appropriate, it would be appropriate for staff to bring forward that as a shelf-ready zone for council's consideration to be implemented. This might be out of step with what council's looking for within that zone and the type of commercial, the percentage of commercial, setbacks. So if council's truly wishing to use this as a template for additional uses within that C9 neighborhood commercial, it might behoove you to defer this until that work has happened and council can determine whether or not that zone is appropriate. I've heard some concerns about setbacks. I've heard concerns with the number and type of commercial opportunities, and that would give council the clarity that you might be seeking to implement this so that other developments could use it. I think part of the issue that we've got is we have so many CD zones, and to me, that's problematic because it's really hard for neighbors to understand what that looks like. So having a zone C9 that applies to multiple opportunities with this sounds to me like council would like some more time to look and see what's appropriate, and council could consider deferring that until that work happens.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Olson.
I hear everybody too. So why don't I kill my motion and make a recommendation to defer for more information.
I see nine, so clarity.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it would be best, because we do have a motion that's been moved and seconded, to just vote on it, and you can just defeat this one and then move to the next.
Okay, sure. That's
Okay.
You're right. It's cleaner that way. I'll just call the question on this current motion right now. All those for this motion? Seeing none. All those opposed?
Kill him.
Okay, so it's killed officially. Go ahead, make it win.
So we're making a motion to defer.
Yeah, until staff. See nine.
Yeah, until staff have a prepared C9 zone.
As a shelf-ready zone to be implemented.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay,
What he said. Thanks, Jason.
Well, I don't think we need motivation on that. So I'll just go straight. I'll ask the question right now. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. We shall move on. I am going to take a health break, 5-minute health break. We'll see you back at 8:30. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, guys. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, I shall reconvene the meeting. Thank you very much for sticking around. We got only 2 people in the audience right now. We'll move on to item 10.2. And Mr. Johnson, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have Colwood Land Use Bylaw 151, 1989, Amendment number 220, CD 43 zone for 3145 Metchosin Road, and it's going for second and third reading as amended. We have Marcy here to speak and provide a brief overview of Bylaw 2054. And if you have any questions, we also had I believe, two members of the public that wish to speak for public participation. Thank you.
Okay, I will let you guys speak, please, first. There you go.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nicholas Standeven, Vice President of Development with Abstract Developments, and I'm here this evening as the applicant for 3145 Metchosin. Joining me is my colleague Adam Cooper, and together we're happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information as needed as the evening progresses. Before highlighting some key aspects of our proposal, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to City of Colwood staff for their ongoing support, collaboration, and innovative approach throughout this process. Our proposal is for a 3-story ground-oriented townhome development that fully aligns with Colwood's official community plan. We're excited about the opportunity to bring forward a family-friendly housing design that contributes to Colwood's vision for a vibrant and diverse community. As part of our application, we've also worked with staff to future-proof the interface with Metchosin Road. We are providing a dedication along the Metchosin Road frontage that will allow Colwood to expand this important right-of-way and will dovetail with your transportation master plan. Also, our application does not include any requests for variances and has received support from staff as noted in the council report. If council approves our rezoning here tonight, we're committed to designing and building these homes with the same care, quality, and attention to detail that define every abstract project. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Ward, please.
Yeah, I don't have any questions per se. I do just want to note that this proposal came before the Planning and Land Use Committee. It was forwarded to council with the support of the committee. The only real concern at the time was the Metchosin Road access and frontage there, which you know, the applicants took that away and made adjustments that I think are very favorable. Certainly, I could speak on behalf of the committee in that was the objective, and the objective was met. So I think it's important to know the applicant is a well-known builder, is building very quality homes. I call them homes. We often like to define things by housing type. You know, yes, they're townhomes, but as I pointed out to many, I live in a townhome. You know, you're talking family homes in a bracket that still stretches the veneer of affordability in this region. So, you know, I think some of the concerns raised when you see a multifamily development are a little out of date. These will have pride of ownership, I'm sure, and I think fit well in the community. And it's something that I think we'll see more of along that arterial corridor, particularly when we move to build it out to 3 lanes. For the record, I'm not a proponent of 4 lanes. I'll just say that. I think 3 lanes. But anyway, long way of saying that I support this and I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Do you want to add anything, Marcy, on your presentation? I think we know what the outcome of the first reading is. Anything else to add? Okay. So what I'm going to look for is a motion to get this on the floor right now. Motion.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Councillor Olson, Councillor Grove seconds it. So we'll open it up for discussion at this point in time, and we'll start with Councillor D.
Thank you. The remaining concern for me is the right in, right out on Metchosin Road, which I believe is still in place. And the width of the Metchosin Road dedication, I believe between certainly in this area, I believe that it should be 30 meters, which would help with that right in, right out. There's not a lot of easy ways to turn right and be able to go to the stores, for example, in Royal Bay or the playing fields. And I don't want to create a situation where, for the sake of efficiency of the families that live here, trying to get their kids to or from an event or school or any of the other things that happen in our community, that they feel compelled to make an unsafe movement with their vehicle. I love that there's EV connectivity for their vehicles. There's lots of good things to like about this. But I think the road right of way needs to be 30 meters, because when we've talked about Metchosin Road, we've talked about the need, especially as more and more neighborhoods are joining onto Metchosin Road, that more and more traffic is flowing towards Souk Road. So I think that that road width is critical to the success of that corridor. And so I'm suggesting that it should be 30 meters that we acquire so that we are future proofing our road.
Go ahead, please, because you're the expert too, so.
Thank you very much. And through the mayor to Councillor Day, just to clarify, the ultimate access for this property is contemplated to be on Wood End. So the right in, right out at most would be an interim condition onto Metchosin Road, if that allays any of the concerns. I know that the 25-meter road dedication was communicated to us through a lot of collaboration with municipal staff as well. And I know that the TMP is still upcoming and ongoing, and it's not meant to preclude that, but just to make sure that council and mayor are aware that the ultimate access proposed here would be through Wood End.
It may be worth adding too that we're in, shock, sorry. We're also in active discussion with 3157 Metchosin, who are in an application status. And we are, I would say in principle, there's an agreement to create at least a temporary access condition to Wood End Road, if that was the desire from council. We've certainly been working in earnest towards that with the applicant. Staff have been part of those discussions in terms of a three-party discussion to ensure that that is a viable option for the application.
Thanks very much.
So it may not be yourselves that we are dealing with.
As part of the rezoning package, I believe there's language in there that any would run on the title of the property, that in the future, when the cul-de-sac is ultimately created, that the access would be required to go through there. So regardless of the ownership of the property, that condition would remain in perpetuity.
Councillor Grove. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's just both the same issue about the cul-de-sac. Was there any sense of timeline? There's reference to when the city, the covenant is that when the city completes the cul-de-sac. So does that, how does the timing work on that? I'm just to clarify for me, I don't quite have it in my, thanks, John.
You bet, through your worship. We have seen a preliminary application from 3157 as well. And as the applicant has said, we have had meetings with 3157 and themselves, stating our desire to not have both those developments enter onto Metchosin, especially 3157, because it's at the Lauren intersection, which would be problematic. And obviously Souk Road's traffic volumes are going to increase. So if we can get those entrances off of Souk Road, not have to worry about left turns, not have to worry about problematic right turns as well, then going on to Wood End makes sense. So it is our intent that the long-term goal, both those developments would access onto Wood End through a cul-de-sac. So if 3157 happened first, then this would be done right at then. And if you look at the site plan, you can see that the intent with regards to the siting of the building shows that it would eventually go onto that cul-de-sac as well.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I think anything else? It's just the sort of the timing matter of it. So this could happen right away or it may delay. So 3151 is not involved with the access, Wood End access. 31551.
Could you answer the question, John, or?
So it's this application 3145 would have ultimate access to Wood End Road, and then 3157 would have access to Wood End Road. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's good for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask, is there reference to natural open space in the land use bylaw?
Thank you for the question. So the way that we have been regulating open space, I would say is inconsistent within our zones. We use the terms natural open space, usable open space, open space. They all have a similar intent, I would say. Usable open space is defined. This natural open space, we do not have a definition for that regulatory condition. 20% is certainly higher than most other zones that we have. Our DP guidelines speak to having a minimum of 5% usable open space. And then we have a number of DP guidelines that require private amenity space per unit as well. Further, this development, as part of their development agreement, there is a condition for seating and a play area, given that it is a townhome development, and having amenities is an important aspect.
So this is a new regulatory, like this, we're approving a new regulatory requirement, like without, I guess I'm concerned that again, this zone is missing requirements that should be defined already. Like we're being asked to approve a new regulatory requirement for minimal natural open space, and it's not clearly defined in the land use bylaw. It's not clear what qualifies as natural open space, really. I don't really have an issue with this development, except I kind of wish it wasn't as much of housing on the site. I wish it had more space, but I don't. Again, I have issues with the zone. It feels like it's being changed or to meet the requirements of what's in front of us and not what works throughout the rest of Colwood. And I had one other question about the minimum lot frontage. The last time we saw this, was it 30 meters?
Yes, that's correct. It was 30 meters. This property 3145 does have a frontage that is smaller than the 30 meters. So that was an oversight on staff's perspective. So we're bringing forward a zone that has a frontage that would enable development on this property. We did do an analysis of lot frontages all along Metchosin Road, and it's in the staff report. I believe it was only 20% of lots that would actually meet that 30-meter lot frontage. And we would never want to create a zone where the majority of properties would already be non-conforming or would have to come forward for a variance. So we did update the zone to enable development on the site. The other changes that you do see to this zone are a factor of coordinating the developments at 3145 and 3157 Metchosin Road together. We are in receipt of a rezoning application for 3157. So we have added a number of regulations that would enable development to ensure that we get that wooden road connection. So that is why you see some other changes, and it's to ensure that they both can develop.
Thank you.
So just to quickly, so have we actually now reduced it to 28 meters then, or is it was 30, right? So,
It's 20 meters now.
oh, 20, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other discussion on this item? I will call the question. Councillor Day.
I'm just wondering how we might be able to ensure that what we approve gets realized. And in discussions earlier today was discussing the option of tying our readings to development permit. And I just would like to ask if that is something that's realizable at this time, or if that is something that would take too long to accomplish.
That's a new process for council's consideration. That wasn't something we had in place when this application was made. That is a larger conversation with council about the processing of applications in their entirety. This could be considered an in-stream application based on where we're at, but that is certainly a conversation that we're looking forward to bring to council in the next couple of months.
Okay. Thank you. So as it stands, the road right of way that's achieved for Metchosin Road, is it 30 meters?
Currently is not. It's according to the subdivision servicing bylaw, which is 25 meters.
Okay. So I do believe that's a game changer for me. Without achieving 30 meters for Metchosin Road, this is a very dense development being brought forward, and I think we need to provide adequate road right-of-way on Metchosin Road.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no other discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor of the recommendation? And those opposed? Councillor Day and Councillor Jordison. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point in time, we'll go to, well, the last one. Go ahead, Marcy, please. $10.3.
Sorry, Your Worship. So it is Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw 598, Amendment number 177, LAS Enlargement for 521 Mount View, and it's for first, second, and third.
Mover and seconder, please. Okay, Olson and Grove, please. Discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to mover and second to close the meeting, please, to the public. Thank you. Councillor Ward and Councillor Jordison. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll close the meeting. We'll take a recess so everyone can leave that has to leave.